And here we have it. The new and improved Super E10 Dart. Is this thing a worthy upgrade over the E10 Dart that we already have? It's definitely more playable, but that's mainly due to the fact that this thing actually gets countermeasures. Is it actually a better airframe? I don't think so, but we will get to that in a minute here. This plane is very much dependent on your matchmaker, and you will find yourself being up-tiered very often to F5Es, F5Cs, which are definitely not the vehicles you want to be running into. Let's compare the Super Retard directly to the E10 Dart 4M. The main differences here are going to be the kit. This thing gets a better radar. It gets 180 countermeasures if you do equip both of them. It gets magic ones. It gets a slightly better engine, but it's also a lot more obese. The entirety of the kit will make this thing slightly less maneuverable. So if you are used to the E10 Dart 4M, this thing is going to be a little bit more bricky. You also are going to be facing a lot stronger opponents, but you do have flares making it actually possible to use the main strength of the plane, which is the low speed acceleration. Sure, the speed bleed is quite bad, but when you use the engine power correctly, if you sit at the optimal speed ranges, you want to sit at like 600 to 800 kilometers an hour versus most enemies, where your enemy might actually not have the trust to actually start out climbing you, but we will show you plenty of that throughout this video. The funny thing about the E10 Dart 4M is that it actually accelerates faster once they are both in the air. You will notice that the E10 Dart 4M is a little bit slower to take off. The Super E10 Dart upon takeoff absolutely shoots off, but then once they are both going 200, of course, the regular E10 Dart will reach it a little bit later, but if you start timing them from 0, once they are going 200, you will notice that the E10 Dart 4M will reach 300, 400, 500, 600, 700 and 800, all the way up until 900 faster than the Super E10 Dart does. And then the Super E10 Dart just completely pulls away, but it's also when you look at the thrust curves, which I will show you one right here, the thrust just falls off a cliff with the regular one. I'm not sure if it's a bug, it probably is, it looks super artificial. Someone mentioned that in the previous video that I did. Thank you for pointing that out. And we did a bit of testing and indeed it's exactly as predicted. Let's take a look at the loadouts here. We have quite a few things actually. We can carry a multitude of weapons on each pylon and only the countermeasures here, which is good. You don't have to sacrifice anything. But that's basically it. It doesn't get AS-30s as far as I'm aware. Might get that in the future, but as of right now we are going to be carrying 2 magic ones and too many countermeasures. Does this thing have skins, you might ask? The answer is yes, and we are running it right now. This is the skin that comes stock. Not a big fan of the tiger print or the camo print, whatever you want to call it. So I'm just going to go with the 200 GE one. I'm not sure if you can unlock it, but here it is. These are the skins. Let's get right into it. I'm gonna be showing you essentially every game I did in this thing. I only had to do about 6 to get this footage. I know how the E10 Dart works. I flew that thing a tremendous amount, at least the previous one. So getting used to the plane wasn't something I had to be too worried about. It's mostly about using it versus a new set of planes and using it in today's matchmaker. And the matchmaker is gonna be the deciding factor for this vehicle, and I'm using the default belt right now, and that's why these guns are doing absolutely nothing. But we see a lot of F5Cs flying around in the corner over here. How are we going to be dealing with 5 F5Cs completely, well, not on our own, we have some teammates around, but we have a Jaguar and an Su-25, so I'm not going to be relying on them too much. We want to use our low speed acceleration to make sure we can pull away from these guys, and especially with something like the F5C that doesn't have much energy generation at lower speeds. You can actually energy trap them. You don't want these guys to get on your 6 with a higher speed, because then you are just going to be completely dead. But if they are far enough away, you can put it into a little bit of a straight line like this. You can tell that the climb rate of this plane is going to absolutely be dusting this F5. We are already like 2 kilometers away and we are still outrunning him. So there is no use for us to start turning now. He will start catching us if we do, because the energy retention of this plane is quite bad. So we are just going to be pulling this guy up so that Mr. MiG-21 here can pitch straight up for him and just slam him out of the air. And that's exactly what he does. And because you have flares now, you can actually go vertical. Before with the E10 Dart, if you try to do that kind of energy trap, 9 out of 10 times you will just get A9J'd, A9G'd, or whatever missile gets shot your way. Now, because we have flares, we have countermeasures, we can actually use our abilities of this plane to start stalling people out. You don't want to go into too much of complicated maneuvers. You don't want to start turning too much, because then you lose your altitude advantage, you lose your energy advantage, because the speed bleed is so bad, they close the gap and they will just gun you down, and you want to avoid that. So you want to sit above people, you want to sit away from people, and once that happens, just like with this J-35, we can just kind of go up. We want to dodge him a little bit, and then we just kind of go straight. We just kind of just climb away from this guy. No chance he's going to be catching us. He tries to level out underneath us so that he can like pitch up after us a little bit later. But I'm trying to not turn fully. I'm trying to stall my speed to gain some position. And eventually we will do exactly that. We are just going to fly straight for a little bit. We are going to get some energy and then we want to pitch up. But the J-35 pitches off himself. He starts engaging someone else. And this allows us to just turn back into him. I'm trying to get on his 6 so I can just shoot a magic at him. But he turns back into us. Luckily we line up the guns and we set him on fire. The F4C is now next. And I mean, he can't really do much. We don't turn well enough to pull lead. I thought I had it, but I didn't. I'm just trying to get on this guy's 6 to magic him, but the F4C turns the other way. And the J-35, of course, puts the fire out, so now he starts engaging us back. His engine isn't out, his fuel isn't empty, and he is still gonna be sitting on my ass. So I'm just gonna be trying to fly away for a little bit, and we are gonna be accelerating away and then going vertical. I'm gonna see what they want to do. F4C is still on us. I want to pressure the J-35 here, but he pulls off and the F4C is still going up for us. So we are just going to pull a little bit vertical here, the same way we have been doing. And at these medium speeds, you out-accelerate essentially everything. And it's kind of comical, considering you're not running into something like the MiG-19. The MiG-19 is going to be an issue, but we will have some clips of that a little bit later. F4C breaks off, and because he doesn't have the speed to actually get away from us, and we have the acceleration to just pressure him, I'm just going to push into him, and the second I get at like 1.3-ish kilometers, I'm going to send a magic his way, and he is going to do absolutely nothing about it. He reenacts 9/11 to avoid giving us a kill, and we wasted a missile that I kind of wanted to use on the J-35 then. I just wanted the F4C to be dead right there, just so I can keep going straight, so I can start catching the J-35. Because we see that he is struggling, he's not going that quickly, and I want to catch him before he reaches back to his airfield. And at the trajectory that we are looking at right now, we might actually do so, but we fail to take into account that the J-35 is still accelerating. He was just going that slow because he probably has a tremendous amount of damage. He didn't accelerate that well because his engine might be kind of busted as well. A lot of extra drag. So it looked like I was very easily going to be catching him, but at this point it sets in and I notice that I'm not gonna be making it. By the time I reach his airfield, he is gonna be within the Yorks, within the SAM sites. The SAM sites I'm not really too worried about, but there is also another enemy taking off, making it so that I can't really stick on this guy. And because I don't have a missile left, and because these guns don't really reach that far, we are not gonna be doing anything. He's just too fast and he can just start dodging us and we then can't follow because the F4C is coming in. Otherwise we might have been able to just stick through it, but with the F4C here I need to break off and I need to start engaging this guy instead. We shoot a few rounds, we lead improperly, and we're just gonna put it into the vertical. It's an F4C that just took off, so I'm not really too worried about him. There's a A5 above us as well, so I kind of want to make sure that I kill this guy before he does. And he tries to accelerate away, but it's not gonna happen. He kind of rolls out of the way, we hold the trigger down, he blows up. And now the J-35 has landed, he will repair, and by the time he takes back off, the game is essentially over. Here we are in more of a full up-tier sense, and in full up-tiers it's kind of rough, because there's always 2 or 3 F5s on your 6, there's always an F8E around, there is always something to kind of kick your teeth in, and it's not that great to fly when you get fully up-tiered. I mean, what jet is these days? But something like the E-10 Dart, which has an airframe of something like 9.7, 9.3 plane, you're not gonna have a very great time other than the Magic Ones. The Magic Ones are pretty decent. I'm not sure if they actually increase the flare resistance on them, but they have been flying through flares quite oftenly for me. And it also helps that these things accelerate so incredibly quick. If you shoot them at like 1 kilometer, very often by the time they react and they actually start flaring, the missile is already there, it's too close and it hits anyway. So we just kind of keep our altitude at for now, and we see that the F8E directly above us actually starts chasing the Su-22. And I have a feeling it's going to be an AIM-9C. And it is. It's great that you can see that in the kill feed now. So we know exactly what happened to him. And I will be catching this guy. The only issue is that he's going to be reacting to us because he killed the Su-22 at his opportune moment. And now we are going to be stuck in a little bit of a dogfight. And a dogfight with the F8E is something that you're not going to have that much success with. Now we have some position. He dove directly in front of us. And because of that, I have the ability to kind of just sit on the 6. Now he's going to try to loop us. And in reality, that is going to end up in his win. As long as he actually takes into account that I have missiles. So this guy is basically stalling out. He's going very slow. We are very close. We are medium altitude. That missile reaches him instantly and it blows him up. If you are in that kind of position where you are going very slow, your enemy has trouble getting nose on you, but he does and you know he has missiles, just pre-flare. The missiles are so weak against pre-flares, other than the R-73s, the AIM-9Ms and missiles that get slaved to the radar, but you won't really find those at this BR. So just pre-flare, make sure that you don't get caught off guard by a missile that reaches you in half a second. Also, as you might have noticed, I fly with my radar off. There's no real use in having it on. It just wants the RWR of the enemies, and I want to avoid that because this plane is a bit of an opportunistic fighter. But I mean, what did you expect? It's fucking French. So, you know, you're not gonna expect too much from it. And we are just gonna be looking for targets now. We push away the F-104. I wanted to magic him. We don't get the ability to do so. But then this F-105 ends up in front of us. And it's like, don't mind if I do. Kill the child. Because this kind of missile versus flareless planes is absolutely comical. They cannot do anything if you get within the range. The magic ones don't have the best range. But at this BR, your enemies are also not as fast as at top tier, for example. So you can actually, if you close the gap to like 1 to 1.3 kilometers and they don't have flares, it basically always kills them. And I absolutely love that. So I'm trying to go for the F-104. The issue is that I couldn't lock him. Otherwise I would have shot the missile at him and then went for the F-8E. Unfortunately for us, that isn't what ends up happening. And we just continue on for the F-8E. I didn't want to keep pulling for the F-104, even though the F-104 would have been basically a secure kill, but I didn't want that F-8E to be riding me after I overshoot. That's a very dangerous plane to have behind you, and it's something that I am not really keen on having on my 6. Sure, I probably could have been out accelerating him, but you never know. I don't want to risk it, so I go for him instead. The F-104 gets away scot-free, and now we are just going to be looking for some new targets. We have an F3H, which is comically trash. The F-104 that keeps its speed. There's another F-104 in the background. And then I noticed that the Su-17 decided to fly towards us. So I already know that he's going to pull into the head-on last second. So I'm just going to commit to it because I don't want to deal with it. He is not able to pull into that. And it's so obvious when people fly directly at you, but then are like, ooh, I am 20 degrees off. I don't see you. And then, haha, I pull in last sec. If you are going to be suicidal like that, at least make sure that you have 1, good aim, 2, a plane that can actually do it, and 3, a plane that actually has the guns to do it as well. Because with 2 NR30s, the likelihood of your guns just going around me is so big that it's not worth the risk. And you're better off pretending you're going for someone else or something, but when you fly directly at me, and then like, just kind of go at an off angle, it screams, I'm gonna pull in last second, and if your enemy is aware of what you are going to do, he's just gonna pre-fire you and you're gonna pull into his rounds and you are just going to explode. But you know, to each their own. Let's take a look at the MiG-19 here. We do have a missile left and I want to keep this thing so I can slam the MiG-19 out of the air. Because the MiG-19 is a plane that you're not gonna have a great time dogfighting as long as your enemy knows what he's doing. I'm trying to not overspeed too much so I don't compress as much so I can pull inside of the MiG-19. But the MiG-19 just has too much energy. He's too fast, he has too much acceleration, and he just has absolute dummy thick power, and it's actually pretty maneuverable. The only weakness of the MiG-19 is having no countermeasures. If that thing had good missiles, if that thing had countermeasures, it would probably be like 11.0. That thing is absolutely filled, and you can tell it's just going straight up, and my Magic 1 is not going to be reaching him, so I'm actually forced to break off. He just flies away. Now he's playing it quite passively, and he's giving me opportunities to recover, which is what you want to avoid. This guy can just hold S on me. I am not going to be killing him. He turns better than me. He rates better than me. He has much more power. And the MiG-19 is just absolutely filthy. So we dive into the clouds here, and we're gonna see if we can get him unspotted. He goes unspotted, but I'm not sure if he can't see us either, so I still want to go somewhat defensive. I want to switch up my loop to make sure that he isn't just chasing me by accident, because he just keeps going where I was last. I'm basically treating this guy like a Phoenix missile. And he does keep going straight, so if I had gone straight as well, then he would have just been directly on my 6. And as I said, I'm not a big fan of MiG-19s on my 6. So I'm just staying at ground level, staying near the clouds and trying to see who I can engage. And I noticed the Lightning as well, and he's engaging the F-86. And the Lightning is a plane that I'm not too worried about. He doesn't have flares, he's nowhere near as fast, he loses a lot of speed very quickly, and he doesn't have countermeasures. And then I noticed that he is turning around for the F-86, and because I'm unspotted in these clouds, I have the ability to just sneak up on this guy. And because I don't have RWR, I can just sneak up on this guy. And this guy has no clue that I'm here, so we just line it up, we wait a little bit longer, boom. Just hold the trigger down for a little bit, we have plenty of ammo. And only one enemy left. And the last enemy is the MiG-19 that we have been dealing with. And we are now coming out of the clouds, and we are pretty close to him. And at this point, he can't really do much because he let me sneak up on him. And I will be faster than him. He will be going about Mach 0.99, maybe 0.98 if he has missiles equipped. And I'm going Mach 1. I'm 99. I'm slightly diving, and I will close the gap. And he's forced to do something here, because the second I get within range, he's dead. And he's now too close, and he's going too fast to the point where he can't turn out either, because I will just be able to sling a Magic 1 at him. And that's all I have for you today. Thank you all for watching, and you will see me out tomorrow with a boat video.